Pharaohs were the rulers of ancient Egypt, and in that capacity, they served as both the political and religious leaders of their subjects. The term pharaoh literally translates to great house, which is an allusion to the palace in which the pharaoh lived. Pharaohs were originally referred to as kings, but as time went on, the term pharaoh became more common. Pharaohs were regarded to be divine intermediaries between the Egyptian gods and their people because of their roles as religious leaders of the Egyptian people. As the spiritual leader of the Egyptians, the pharaoh was responsible for ensuring that religious peace was preserved and for taking part in religious rituals. Pharaohs were the rulers of Egypt at the time, and their responsibilities included legislating, waging war, collecting taxes, and overseeing the entire country, which was owned by the pharaoh. The name Narmer, who was also known as Menes, is widely held to have been the first pharaoh. Many academics think that he was the first ruler to combine Upper and Lower Egypt, which is why pharaohs are given the title of Lord of Two Lands. However, there is some disagreement among these experts. Pharaohs were primarily male. However, there were a few notable female leaders throughout Egyptian histories, such as Hatshepsut and Cleopatra. In particular, Hatshepsut was an effective ruler. Nevertheless, following her death, many inscriptions and monuments relating to her were destroyed, possibly to discourage other women from assuming the role of the pharaoh in the future. Pharaohs were often embalmed and buried with vast amounts of wealth, which was intended for them to spend in the afterlife once they had passed on. These tombs have been uncovered by explorers and archaeologists, who have taken the information gained from them and applied it to their understanding of ancient Egyptian culture. One of the most well-known examples of this occurred in 1922 when archaeologist Howard Carter found the tomb of King Tutankhamun, a pharaoh who only lived to be 19 years old before he passed away. The concern for the well-being of one's deceased loved ones is as old as humanity itself, but Egypt took this compassion to a level that has never been seen before or since. There is abundant evidence that tomb looting occurred in Egypt from the very beginning of the country's history. When one examines the design of an Egyptian tomb, one can see that physical precautions were implemented to stop the practice almost immediately. Several questions arise as a result of this. Why did the Egyptians put in such a significant amount of effort to defend their tombs? How did they ensure that they were safe? And how did this factor into the overall design of the tomb? According to the texts, the Egyptians believed that once a burial was placed within its tomb, the structure formed both a repository for the body and a dwelling for two spiritual elements known as the Ka and the Ba. These elements were considered to be an essential part of a human being while they were alive, but they became distinct from the body after death. The Ka remained in the tomb, whilst the Ba was permitted to venture out into the world of the living throughout the day but was required to return to the tomb before nightfall. However, to achieve the ultimate spiritual state, which was that of an Ak or an effective being, both parts had to come together every day with the body in the grave. Only then were they able to spend eternity among the gods and on earth. The tombs of the Egyptian pharaohs consisted of many chambers, and each of these chambers housed a unique collection of valuables. Gold was commonly used to decorate mummies, including in the form of masks and body coverings. During the process of mummification, amulets and jewelry manufactured from precious metals and stones like gold and silver were traditionally inserted in the linen wrappings. During the excavations that took place in 1923, researchers discovered, for instance, almost 200 different pieces of jewelry hidden in Tutankhamun's body wrappings. Crafts and adornments. In the larger tombs, there were often separate treasury halls that contained chests filled with jewelry and valuable metals. Gold and precious stones were exclusive components of the jewelry worn by religious and political leaders in ancient Egypt. Rulers' jewelry often incorporated these elements. Because ancient Egyptians believed their pharaohs to be direct descendants of the gods, religious themes were frequently incorporated into the country's jewelry and statues. Egyptologists Hans Wolfgang Müller and Eberhard Theim mention tomb objects such as beds and chariots constructed of gold and silver to display the exalted position of the leader to people in the afterlife. Citation needed. Artwork and jewelry also contained images of the religion practiced by the governing dynasty. However, representations of the sun deity Re or Ra, a solar disk, and Horus, a falcon, regularly occur on jewelry and statues from tombs of all dynasties. These images may be found in tombs across Egypt. statue of the king made of wooden that serves as a guardian. One of the 2 sentries that Howard Carter discovered guarding the entrance to Tutankhamun's burial chamber was a life-sized statue of Tutankhamun. The statue featured piercing golden eyes, gold attire, and black skin that contrasted with the golden clothing and apparel. Would you have been so reckless as to mess with it? Canopic sarcophagus in miniature. The ancient Egyptians placed a significant emphasis on afterlife beliefs and practices. They held the belief that the soul of the deceased would continue to exist in the hereafter in perpetuity if the body of the deceased was preserved after death by the process of mummification. During the process of mummification, the internal organs were removed, bandaged in linen, and deposited in containers that were referred to as canopic vessels. The organs were often kept in jars, but on occasion, they were placed in little gold coffins. The liver of King Tut was placed in this exquisite casket, which may be seen on the left. Wow! Gilded wooden bed. The gold-covered bed shown below is one that many experts believe was created for King Tut's funeral. The ancient Egyptians thought that when a person died, they did not truly die but instead went into a deep sleep from which they would awaken when they were reborn in the hereafter. To ensure the pharaoh's safe passage into the afterlife and to keep evil forces at bay, divine figures were carved onto the bed. In this particular instance, Bes, a god who scared away evil spirits from newborn babies, and Tauret, the hippo goddess, were the deities that were depicted on the bed. Sweet dreams. Trumpets in silver used by the military. Inside Tutankhamun's tomb, archaeologists discovered 2 trumpets. There is a common belief that trumpets possess mystical properties. After their rediscovery, the first time one was blown, the lights in Cairo's Egyptian Museum went out, and a few months after that, war broke out in Europe. Once more, trumpets were played before significant historical events, like the Six-Day War in 1967, the Gulf War in 1990, and the Egyptian Revolution in 2011. Some people have suggested that the curse is responsible for all of these strange coincidences. Spooky! The exhibition titled Tutankhamun, Treasures of the Golden Pharaoh was hosted by Viking Cruises in 2019 at London's Saatchi Gallery. How was the video? Do you like it? Post your precious feedback in our comments section below and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.